I was heavily beaten and they broke my arm.
The Velvet Revolution ended 41 years of one-party communist rule in Czechoslovakia. From its ashes rose a new democratic nation, with dissident playwright Vaclav Havel as its new president. But why did a peaceful demonstration commemorating the death of a Czech student who was murdered by the Nazis spark a wave of unrest, which toppled the country's regime in weeks? By late 1989, the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia was one of the last to collapse in the Eastern Bloc. Poland and Hungary had already overthrown their regimes, and the Berlin Wall had fallen. The CIA reported in mid-November that its demise was only a matter of time, but it could not predict the scale and speed at which the uprising came. On November the 17th, also known as International Students' Day, a crowd of almost 15,000 students marched through Prague's historic centre. They eventually clashed with state police and special forces. Hundreds were badly beaten or arrested, including many foreign journalists. A US embassy cable from Prague described this as a watershed moment and the first serious threat to the regime in 20 years. The state's brutal suppression of the peaceful protests sparked wide outrage, and more protests followed. Someone who witnessed these historic events was Marek.
My family was heavily punished. We just couldn't accept what happened in 1968. I was surprised by its magnitude. That was massive. I think the people were probably less scared because of the fall of Berlin Wall a week ago. Of course, I was hurt and I was in pain, but on the other hand, I still felt it was worth to do, and of course, I didn't expect the very positive outcome.
An opposition group called the Civic Forum was formed and presented its demands to the state, which included democratic elections, a free market economy, social aid for all groups, and environmental care reforms. But despite the widespread celebrations, the road to democracy wasn't a smooth one. It was followed by a period of organised crime and many debates about how to punish ex-party officials, rehabilitate political prisoners, and how to compensate those whose property was stolen by the state.
In general, the vast majority of people were very happy that we achieved what we were fighting for.
But what about those like me who weren't alive when it happened? I went to the Czech school in Berkshire to understand how young Czechs in Britain reflect on these events today.
My mum said that she was like 12 or something in primary, and she was like listening to the radio about it and stuff, and she said that because her parents weren't supporting the communist government, then she wouldn't have been able to make it into uni.
My parents, at least, when it happened, they were in like primary school, so they didn't live near like Prague, right? They lived on the other side in Moravia, so they kind of weren't sure what was going to happen if they were going to overthrow the government. What's like the next steps? I think it's a good lesson. Like I think it shows us like how that was in the past. Like that's obviously a mistake that's been made, and that we should learn from that, so that basically we don't get put in that situation again.
For me, it's the big disappointment, and particularly looking at Slovakia and Hungary. I just can't comprehend that the people are accepting the governments and the politicians. But I strongly believe that the Czechs are so far they are quite on the right path, in my opinion.